Hi, my name is Meg Versteeg, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Pueblo. We are going to review today the ballot issues that you're going to be seeing in the November election. There are 3 state issues, and there is one for the City of Pueblo and one for the Metropolitan District of Colorado City. The first state issue is Amendment 78. It's the legislative authority of spending state money. This is the meat of it. It says, shall there be an amendment to the Colorado Constitution and a change to the Colorado Revised Statutes concerning money that the state receives, and in connection therewith requiring all money received by the state, including money provided to the state for a particular purpose, known as custodial money, to be subject to appropriation by the General Assembly after a public hearing, repealing the authority to disperse money from the state treasury by any other means, requiring all custodial money to be deposited into the newly created Custodial Funds Transparency Fund, and the earnings of those deposits to be transferred to the general fund, and allowing the state to retain and spend all custodial money and earnings and revenue on that custodial money as a voter-approved revenue change. Amendment 78 Overview. It is an initiated amendment to the state constitution. It will require custodial money to be appropriated by the General Assembly. Currently, custodial funds received by the state do not go through the appropriation process, allowing the money to be spent immediately. This initiative would require the legislature to approve expenditure of these funds. What are custodial funds? Federal distributions, grants, and settlement money. The current law requires the state treasurer to put custodial funds into a separate account that's not subject to annual appropriation by the legislature. Money can be spent immediately. The proposed law allows that this money be spent only after an annual appropriation. Those in favor of this initiative say that it ensures all state money is allocated by the legislature. It provides necessary oversight. It establishes public hearing and promotes open, transparent process about how the state funds are being spent. Organizations in support of this amendment, there are 3 of them. The opposition says funds are already allocated and spent only on designated items. The outcome is the same, but the process is slower and more expensive. Having a separate account can delay spending and deny income to fund providers. Organizations in opposition to this amendment, none. The next ballot issue on the state agenda is Proposition 119. It's called the Learning Enrichment and Academic Progress Program. This is the meat of it. Shall state taxes be increased $137,600,000 annually on retail marijuana sales by a change to the Colorado Revised Statutes concerning the creation of a program to provide out-of-school learning opportunities for Colorado children aged 5 to 17, and in connection therewith creating an independent state agency to administer the program for out-of-school learning opportunities chosen by parents, funding the program by increasing the retail marijuana sales tax by 5% by 2024, and reallocating a portion of the public school lands income, authorizing transfers and revenue for program funding as a voter-approved revenue change, specifying that learning opportunities include tutoring and extra instruction in subjects including reading, math, science, writing, music, and art. Targeted support for children with special needs and learning disabilities, career and technical education training, and other academic or enrichment opportunities, and prioritizing program financial aid for low-income students. An overview of Proposition 119. It is an initiated amendment to the Colorado Revised Statutes. It raises the tax rate on marijuana sales by 5% and diverts school trust lands revenue to raise an estimated $137.6 million. The Learning Enrichment and Academic Progress, LEAP is what it's abbreviated to, provides out-of-school learning and enrichment opportunities to eligible children ages 5 to 17. Parents choose which program their kids attend, but payments go directly to providers. This is how the program works. It's a Colorado Learning Authority. It would be a new state agency, and it would be is independent from oversight. Initial board would be appointed, and subsequent members to the board would be recommended. The program providers, the board develops criteria for selection and certification of the providers. The financial aid distribution, the youth in the families at or below the federal poverty level would have first priority. Then providers are chosen by parents are paid $1,500 per student per year. The program would be funded, again, by the increase in retail marijuana sales tax. It's currently at 15%. It would be increased to 18% in 2022, then to 19% in 2023, and finally to 20% by 2024. It would also include a diversion of school trust land revenue. It's about $21 million would be diverted annually to pay for this program known as LEAP. In support of Proposition 119, those in favor say that it closes the gap for families that cannot afford enrichment opportunities. It supports education needs of low-income students and makes up for program losses in recent years. It creates opportunities for teachers to earn money as program providers. There are 9 organizations currently in support of this proposition. Those opposed to Proposition 119 say that the initiative gives public money to private providers instead of restoring cut programs or providing additional learning opportunities. There is no requirement for parents to choose academic subject tutoring. It doesn't address lack of providers in rural communities. It establishes programs that compete with public schools. Increasing tax will push people toward black market marijuana and hurt legitimate businesses. Organizations in opposition to this, 16. Proposition 120. Property tax assessment rate reduction and voter-approved revenue change. Shall there be a change to the Colorado revised statutes concerning property tax reduction, and in connection therewith, reducing property tax revenue by an estimated $1.3 billion in 2023, and comparable amounts thereafter, reducing the residential property tax assessment rate from 7.15 to 6.5, and reducing the property tax assessment rate for all other property, excluding producing mines and lands or leaseholds producing oil gas, from 29% to 26.4%, and allowing the state to annually retain and spend up to $25 million of excess state revenue, if any, for state fiscal years 2022 through 23 through 2026-27 as a voter-approved revenue change, and to offset lost revenue resulting from the property tax rate reductions, and to reimburse local governments for revenue lost due to the homestead exemptions for qualifying seniors and disabled veterans. Proposition 120. This is an overview. It would amend the Colorado state statutes. It would lower non-residential property tax assessment rate from 29% to 26.4%. It lowers residential property tax assessment rate from 7.1 to 6.5. Property taxes are based on 2 numbers: the assessment rate, which is currently at 7.15 statewide for residential property, and then there is the mill levy, and each jurisdiction within the state has its own rate. It anticipates $1.03 billion revenue reduction from property taxes. It allows for $25 million to partially compensate local governments. Proposition 120 considerations. Property taxes fund cities, schools, police, fire, and libraries. Reducing assessment rates would lower revenue for these entities. The rise in property values and home prices might offset lost revenue. Decreases in assessment rates affect all districts, regardless of changes in property values. Senate Bill 21-293 offsets some of Proposition 120 reductions. If Prop 120 doesn't pass, this Senate bill would still reduce rates, but by lower percentages. Those in support of Proposition 120 say that it cuts assessment rates by 9%. As home prices go up, it's time to cut property taxes. Local governments receive $12 billion in stimulus funds. It gives families and small businesses a tax break. It slows down the increase of government spending. And it provides $25 million in funding for the homestead exemption. There are 3 organizations in support of this proposition. Those opposed to Proposition 120 say that it cuts revenue needed by local entities and special districts. Local entities cannot raise the mill levy without an election because of the Tabor requirements, creating a substantial loss in revenue. Once revenues are cut, Tabor requires a difficult, uncertain process to restore. $25 million to partially compensate is not guaranteed and may not occur. Those opposed to this are one organization currently. This is the Pueblo City Ballot Issue 2A. It's called Revenue for Roads. It says, without imposing any new tax or increasing the rate of any existing tax, shall the people of the City of Pueblo be permitted to retain and spend up to $576,609, the amount of city revenues received in the fiscal year 2020 and above the 2020 fiscal year revenue, and spending limitations for roads, repairs, and improvements within the city and fiscal year for 2021, and thereafter shall the City of Pueblo be permitted to collect, retain, and spend the full amount of city revenues received from all sources, including all investment income thereon, with the city commitment to spend a minimum of $5 million annually for street maintenance and repairs and road improvements within the city, all as voter-approved revenue changes and exceptions to the revenue, spending, and other limitations or conditions which would otherwise apply pursuant to Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution or any other law. An overview of 2A says that without raising taxes, it allows the city to keep the $576,609 in 2020 Tabor excess to be used for road repairs. The city would be allowed to collect, retain, and spend the full amount of the revenues in 2021 and future years. A vote of the people would still be required to raise taxes or tax any additional items. $5 million annually would be spent for street maintenance and repairs and road improvements. Considerations. If 2A passes, an estimated amount available for street repairs in 2022 would be made available. Street repair utility enterprises $2.8 million, HUTF $2.2 million, and excess revenue, which is 10% of sales tax increases, $5 million. So the total is $10 million. More considerations. Budget for outside agencies. There is a $3.8 million in contractual payments in 2021's budget for the City of Pueblo. $920,536 in contributions and donations in 2021, and it includes $490,000 to CSAC. $7.8 million has been requested from outside agencies for 2022. If 2A passes, Pueblo will be able to repair roads and streets the first year and will be able to continue those improvements and address other issues in the future. This is what supporters say. Supporters also say that $920,536 is earmarked for contributions and donations in 2021, including $490,000 to the Community Services Advisory Council, which provides grants to local nonprofit organizations. Opponents say because of the Build Back Better Act moving through Congress, this bill may be premature this year. There has been no organized opposition identified as of the date of this recording. This is Ballot Issue 6A for the Metropolitan District of Colorado City. The actual ballot issue says, without creating any new tax or increasing any property tax rates unless separately approved by the voters, shall Colorado City Metropolitan District be authorized to collect, retain, and spend all revenues it receives from all sources in fiscal year 2020 and thereafter, as a voter-approved revenue change and an exception to the limits that would otherwise apply under Article 10, Section 20 of the Colorado Constitution. The 5.5% property tax revenue limitation set forth in Section 29-1-301 of the Colorado Revised Statutes, or any other law. Proponents for this ballot issue number 6A say that the Colorado City Metropolitan District is asking Colorado City residents for the opportunity to pursue long-term solutions to water and sewer issues, improve community recreation, upgrade antiquated equipment, and give every age an opportunity to be more active and healthier. Parks and recreation is vital for a thriving community. Playgrounds, pools, athletics, events, indoor and outdoor recreation are important for a community to be active and healthy. The district is bringing in extra revenue from our campground and could greatly benefit from utilizing these funds to enhance recreation in our community. This comes at no additional cost to taxpayers. If we do not debruce, our tax revenue will drop, and we will need to rely on finding more revenue sources to fund our aging and outdated facilities, which will require raising fees or eliminating programs. Over more than the last year, 2021, a larger and larger number of people from out of town have made use of Colorado City Campground, Holly Dot Golf Course, and recreation programs held and supervised by the Colorado City Parks and Rec. They spent their money in our community to the extent that we have been blessed. Unfortunately, Tabor laws say much of this excess, again, which came from out of the community, has to be returned to the Colorado City customers. If you vote for the ballot measure, you will allow Colorado City Metropolitan District to use excess revenue from the fees collected. Debrucing, as it is called, will do that. It will let the Metro District use the extra revenue being generated by people primarily from outside of the community to enhance the community for the residents. It will not eliminate Tabor laws, and protection for the taxpayer will still be in place. Contrary to popular belief, the practice of debrucing does not free a government from Tabor restrictions. Altogether, a municipality is still fully subject to all other limitations set forth in Tabor. Debrucing appeals to most Colorado voters who understand that local entities are strapped for necessary cash. In fact, 51 out of the 64 counties in the state, 230 of the 274 municipalities in Colorado, and 174 school districts have all debruced since Tabor inception in 1992. Many different groups who rarely see eye to eye on public policy issues agree that debrucing is good for small local governments and their constituents. All too recently, we can all remember when the water taps were dry and the Metro District was handing out drinking water from a local parking lot. People rose up in droves to help their neighbors and even strangers as we faced the tough circumstances together. We banded together in an effort to make a harsh situation less harsh. Thank you. Here's another opportunity for everyone to pull together and make a harsh situation less harsh. Vote to let Colorado City Metropolitan District keep the funds earned by its hardworking staffs in every department and to help create a positive impact for all of us. As of the date of this recording, there were no comments against this ballot issue. If you would like more information about these ballot issues, please visit Vote 411. You can also find more information through the League of Women Voters that will take you to Vote 411. Thank you so much.